first thing I'm going to do is to create an instance of that shared preference around here. Okay, so it's like this, and we are now going to import the shared preferences that get instance. So this is we are going to make it private with the name AppRef. So shared preference is already in our dependency. Okay, so moving on, we are going to go to the set auto change wallpaper stuff. So inside that set auto change wallpaper, what we are going to do is just to, like, save the value into shared preference. So here I'm going to create I'm going to have like a sync here. All right, so inside here, set auto change interval, I'm going to create first create an instance of this value. Let's just because this is a future, so let's just have this app utils, right? So what we're going to do here now is more like to just call, it's very simple stuff. We can just call value.setInt. Okay, then the key name is going to be interval key. All right, so what I usually do when I'm working with keys like this, I normally create a key. So instead of just calling it directly, what I'm going to do is to create a key inside. I'm going to go to our config file, and in our config file, I'm going to create shared preference keys. Okay, and inside here, I'm just going to create the interval key. So we have the interval key here. Okay, and I'm going to go back here. Instead of this, I'm just going to import the interval key here and then save it. Okay, so that's it. And the next thing we are going to do now is to set the interval. So we're going to use interval.aMinute because we're actually setting an integer. Okay, then once we do that, the next thing I want to do is just to get the auto change interval. Okay, so once we save, I need to get auto change interval so that it's going to update whatever we need to do, right? So to do that, I'm going to like go back here now inside, because we already have all this method, right? We have the get auto change interval to get the interval that has already been saved. Okay, so I have my sync here, right? Inside here, what I'm going to do is just to do the same thing that I did for saving, more like to create an instance of the app ref. I'm just going to like, so from here, what I'm going to do next, because we are returning integer, right? So I'm going to do like final interval. I need to get that interval from the shared preference. So I'll have like value.getInt. Okay, then here I'm going to pass in the interval key, and if it's null, then I can just go ahead and return 0. Okay, then what I'm going to do now is to set the duration. Immediately we get it. Okay, I'm going to set the duration, right? Immediately we get the interval. So what I'm going to do is set duration equal to, I'm going to say duration, right, in minutes, right? I'm not going to pass the interval, right, because this is in minutes, right? So inside here, I'm going to update state. I think update state, right? I think this update state has not been created. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to like create that update state somewhere around, but this guy is actually showing it's final, so I need to remove that and also put the update state to get rid of that error. Okay, so as you can see, this is just like something simple, right? So at this point, immediately we set the auto change interval. It's at this point that we are not going to set the initialize, more like set say update. We are going to update the work manager here, right? So whenever we set or change the interval, the work manager is going to be updated, right? So I can just create a method here. Let's just call this setup work manager. Okay, and this method is just there, right? And we also, once it's set, we can now return the interval because this guy requests int as it's requesting for int as a return type. So here inside this setup work manager, I'm just going to like create up the set work manager stuff, but it's going to accept the interval that we actually have. So I'm going to leave this like this for now. Okay, and go back to this error place. I'm just going to pass in the interval that was gotten. Okay, so we need to check one other thing inside the setup work manager. More like we need to check if the interval, right, if it's greater than or equal to 15, then we can just go ahead and do whatever we want to do for the work manager. We are coming back to this, right? I don't want to like keep going faster and faster, right? But before that, let's implement this current version. Okay, so I have a method already. We think we have this get get app version, right? So it's very easy to implement that. So what I'm going to do first is to have like a string app version. So let's say I create a setter and a getter here to get the app version, which is more like a string, right? So inside get app version, I'm going to make this a sync, right? And right here, what I'm going to do next is just to call like I'm going to call the what's it called, the package info, right? So we have like a package info here, okay? Then we have the package info, right, equal to, let's just await it. Then we can call package info dot from platform, right? So with this we can just return app version. So we can say something like package info app version equal to package info, right, dot version. Okay, so here we can just call update state. Cool. So this is pretty much it to get the app version. We are going to implement all this later on. So now that we have set wallpaper interval, we also have the set auto change interval, we also have the get interval list. And now I'm going to like display, let's say we go back here because we already have this guy wrapped with that. So what I'm going to do now, whenever user come to this screen for the first time, I'm going to call like the init state. Okay, so let's just say init. So inside this init, what I'm going to do is to call like, first let me create a state provider, right? I'm going to call like a provider, okay, dot of context, right? Just so that whenever you come to this setting screen, we need to fetch all those data that are required, right? That needs to be displayed. So we have like listing to be false, right? Then right here, what I'm going to do now is just to call the settings provider, right? So here, for the first time, once you enter, we are going to call state provider dot get auto change interval, right? Because we need to update it whenever user comes here. We need to update the interval, and also we need to get state dot get app version, right? So that this guy is going to display properly. We are going to come back to all these ones later. So let's just put in the app version the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to, let me remove this. I'm going to scroll down now to where we have this current version. So what I'm going to do here is to return v, right? And then I will just say state think settings state dot app version, right? Make sure you remove this constant and save it. Currently now it is 3.3. You can see it's removed because we haven't fetched it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and return back to the settings screen, okay? And I can see the version is 1.0.2, and now we can see the selected interval, which is 15 minutes. I don't think that should be how it's supposed to display. So let's see. Okay, so now you can see that when we open it, because user did not select any interval, it's just showing nothing. So let's update this guy. For in the initial state, when user have not selected any interval, it's not supposed to show 15 minutes, right? It's supposed to show something else. So what we are going to do here now is to go to our select interval screen. So right here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check if let's remove this const first. So I'm going to check here if state dot selected, let's say setting state dot selected duration, right, dot in minutes, right, is less than 15. That means user have not selected anything. So we can just return select intervals, okay? Then let's just say set interval rather instead of select interval. So you can just say, yeah, let's say select interval, right? Then if it's available, right, what we can do now is just to have like something like this, settings dot selected duration dot in minutes, okay? Then we can now put minutes here. All right, so save it up. You can see the initial state is going to be, all right, it's still 15. When selected interval is less than 5, it should show this. So I think something is missing. Let's see if we are, yeah, this is 0, though we did not select anything, right? So it's not supposed to. I think we selected, I guess so. Maybe we selected initially and we have saved it, I don't know, but let's see if that is actually true. So what I'm going to do now is to what I'm going to do here now for this trailing switch, I'm going to check if the value is just going to be settings state dot selected duration dot in minutes. So if it's greater than or equal to 15, that means user selected it, so it's just going to show true. So in this case it's false, so that means something is wrong here. That was why this guy is showing 15. So I need to like investigate that. I think awesome. So I did this thing in the wrong place. This is not supposed to be here, right? So I'm just going to cut it and just replace it with the select intervals. This is more like the title, right? So we don't need to update that guy. I'm supposed to update this particular value, right? The one here. Okay, so this is going to be set interval. Okay, save it and it should be set interval now, right? Because we have not selected anything yet. All right, so for the switch case, when we call unchanged, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check if the settings of duration in minutes is less than 15, right? If it's less than 15, when user taps on it, what we are going to do is to show the dialog, right? We are just going to show the interval dialog so that users will be able to select their intervals. But if it's greater than 15, that means user already selected something. We can just toggle it off. So what we can do is to call settings state dot set auto change wallpaper, and then we can give it an initial duration which is seconds, or let's just say minutes, to 0. So this way the user have toggled it off, right? So, and if you notice here in this set auto change wallpaper, we are also calling the get auto change interval, and when we get it, we are updating the WorkManager, right? So we are going to go back now to this guy, and now I'm going to show you how this works. So what we are going to do now, I'm going to click on this icon, right? You can see now it has shown this stuff, so we can now select, let's say 15 minutes, right? So as you can see, nothing is it's not really updating as it's supposed to. So what I'm going to do, it's not updating in real time except we close it there to now update. So now you can see, you can turn it off, you can toggle it on. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to go, I think it's selecting, we are going to go to our show in dialog, right? So in this show dialog, I'm going to check where we are setting the state. So here I'm going to call, because we wrapped this guy with a stateful builder, I'm going to call state, all right, like so, and save it. All right, so now when we go back and try to click, right, it shows this guy. If you click 15 minutes, you can see that it's updating real time, so we can see the changes, right? If you keep it at 15 minutes, you can now close it, right? You can also off it. So now let's do another one now for selecting auto change wallpapers, okay? Because users need to be able to select the auto change wallpapers. So what I'm going to do in this case is when user taps on this guy, first of all, let's show the home screens accordingly, right? Because as it is now for this interval, it's just showing home screen alone, right? We need to show home screen, lock screen, and then set the selection. If you go to our settings provider, you will notice that we already have this list here, right? Wallpaper location list. So I'm going to go to here, right? Inside here, what I'm going to do is to say settings state dot let's say wallpaper list dot length, okay? Then we are also going to get the value. Let's just say final data, and we can have settings dot wallpaper location list dot index, right? But this is showing wallpaper, right, dot index also. So here now, what we are going to do instead is to call, first thing first, we are going to call let's have this guy. We're going to say setting state dot return location name by int. Then we can now return the index, or let's just say data, which is the location data. And then here outside we can now put screens, okay? So we move this const to get rid of this error and save it. All right, so we have home screen, lock screen. I want to show you guys how it works now. So if we close this guy now and click on this guy, you will see that now we have the home screen, lock screen, and the boot screen. Awesome. So now we need to like show something when it's selected, right? So when it's selected, we need to like show a primary color. When it's not selected, we need to show gray color. So to do that, I'm going to go to the decoration that we added here already. So under this decoration, so first thing before we add a color, we need to like create a getter for setting wallpaper location, right? To set wallpaper location and also to get wallpaper location. So the initial value is going to be the the initial value is going to be home screen, right? So we have the selected wallpaper location. We need to know when user selected something and when user did not select something. And then secondly, what we are going to do again is to get to set the wallpaper location. So remember, we already have this method here, set wallpaper location and also get wallpaper location. So I'll quickly locate where we have set wallpaper location, which is here, and make sure you make it a sync. We are going to do the similar thing we did for saving auto change wallpaper. So I'm just going to copy this, right, and put it down here. So for setting wallpaper location, what I'm going to do now is to set a wallpaper location key. So with this, I'm going to go to the where we have our shared preference key and add a new key, set location key. So I'm going to change it now with this one, okay? And now let's go back to where we were, and here we have the set int, and the location is just going to be the location, right? So while we have done that, I'm going to now call the method that says get wallpaper location, right? We already have that method, so let's quickly go to that method, and there we can now implement the logic to get wallpaper. I think we already have another logic where we did getting interval, right? So I can just grab this guy, okay, because it's still similar thing. I'm going to go async, right? Validate it for create a variable. So interval, so this is not going to be interval, rather it's going to be location, right? Value.get is going to be wallpaper location key. So if it's empty or if it's null, we are going to return home screen as the default, right? Awesome. So here now what we are going to do next is to call selected wallpaper location, and we are going to set the location, okay? This is actually, and then we can now return the location. Okay, so this has changed to final, so I'm going to remove that guy there. All right, so now that we have this, we are going to go back to the screen, like the settings screen, so we can see how it works, just more like to implement the whole stuff. So here now that we have stuff, we are going to have settings state, right, dot set wallpaper location, right? Then we can just send in the data, right? Then once we do that, I can just call navigator dot pop, right? Actually we are using Go router, so we can just use context.pop to just close the dialog once user select, right? Because as you can see, we did not have any OK button, right? It would have been a nice experience to have an OK button to close it. So now that we have this, let me save this, and I'm going to close this, open this up, and now we can select home. It's still not showing as we want it to show. So what I'm going to do here now, for this color, I will do the same thing that I did here. Set wallpaper location. Hope we are doing it in the correct place. Okay, yeah, it's actually the correct place. So here now, what I'm going to do is to say color, right? We can just say settings, right? We can say setting state. Okay, setting state dot let's say selected wallpaper location, right, equal to data. If it's equal to data, so what we can do here instead is to return color of primary, else we can just return color of gray. Okay, so data equal to, right? We're going to save that, and here let's just close this guy. Let's open it up again. Nope, I'm in the wrong side. Let's open this up. Okay, something is wrong. Color should be inside the decoration, so I think I need to put it inside the decoration. So I'm going to cut this and put it inside here. Color is already here, so we can just remove this one. Okay, all right, save it, and let's close this guy, open it up again. You can see now the initial value is actually home screen. We can select the 15 minutes duration, and we can select lock screen, right? And if we click on it, you can see the lock screen is selected. So moving on, what I'm going to do now is to do something else, because I do not want okay, let's do another one now to select or to change wallpaper, like the wallpapers that we want to change when user clicks on this guy, so that they will be able to select all the wallpapers, right? instead of opening a new screen entirely. So what we are going to do here, we are going to go back to our provider. So in our provider, we are going to set auto change list. Okay, so I'm going to create a getter and a setter to just store that auto change list. So around here, we are going to create a getter. So this is auto change wallpaper list. Auto change wallpaper list to just store the wallpapers that have been selected by the user. So here I can just have a set, and I will say set change wallpaper value. Okay, and it's going to take a string of the image, right, the image part. So here we can just say if, because this image is going to be a file, right? So I'm going to check if let's say auto change wallpaper list contains this image. What I'm going to do is to remove the list, right? If it contains, I will just call auto change wallpaper list dot remove image. Okay, then else if it exists, right, if it does not contain, I can just add directly. So I can just say auto change wallpaper dot add image. Okay, like this, and then feel free to call your update state. All right, so we have that, and this is not supposed to be final, but let's just see. So what I'm going to do next now is to go back to our screen, and inside there now we need to set the wallpaper list and all that. So what I want to do now, if the auto change wallpaper, the length, if it's less than 2, right, I want to show a message, right? So for you to be able to select interval, you should be able to have maybe selected wallpaper images first. So I want to do something. If the selected wallpaper list is less than 2, I'm going to show please select more than 1 wallpapers to automatically change the downloads. But if it's greater than 2, we can just go ahead and toggle this stuff, give them access to select the wallpapers. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to check for that condition, which is if setting state dot auto change wallpaper list dot length is less than 2. So we need users to select at least 2 items. So what I'm going to do here is just I'm going to show this message. Please select more than 1 wallpaper to automatically change the downloads. Then on confirm tap, when users select confirm tap, we are going to take them to the download screen, right, with extra true. We are going to set the value download. So this download, remember when we put this extra through, if you go to our router here and look for download, is auto change selection, right? We created a constructor for it, so it's auto change selection true. That's why we set this through here, to just tell them that. So once the user returns back, we are going to save the results, right, to the set auto change wallpaper immediately. All right, so here now, the next thing we are going to do now is to go where we have the button to I think we already handled for downloads now. No, not for downloads. For the set auto change wallpaper, we are going to do some few things. So what I'm going to do here now is, if once the user goes to download, right, if we click here to go to download and return back, I'm going to do the same thing that we did here, which is more like to save the stuff after selection, which is set auto change wallpaper, and then I will set the auto change wallpaper list. Okay, so I've not implemented this logic yet. You're going to see it later. So but before then, let's also implement this one. If user so once user selected something, we should just have a string like this. So let's say setting state dot auto change wallpaper list dot length, right, how many that they have selected so far. So we can just have selected. If it's 0, we can say 0 selected, 1 selected, 4 selected, just like that. Okay, so now that we have this, you can see we have 0 selected, right? So now we need to give users the opportunity to select an image, right? So I need to work on this save auto wallpaper changer stuff. So what I'm going to do here is still going to be a boolean, right? And I'm going to use string list instead of the normal ones that I've been using. So first thing, let's create this instance, this variable here, and then we can now say value.set string list. Okay, then the key is going to be the auto change wallpaper key, which I'm going to add inside our shared preference keys. So we have this auto change wallpaper keys, right? I'll return back here and put it here, right? Then inside here, what I'm going to do instead is to pass in the image directly, because it's actually a list of string. Okay, so now that we have this, I'm going to call the get auto change wallpaper, right? The get auto change wallpaper list that we already created, right? And here now you will notice that we already have the get auto change wallpaper list, but at the moment we have not created the logic to get the auto change wallpaper list. So I'm also going to do the same thing, like to get it from the shared preference, right? So I'm going to use the value just the way it is in the other areas, because all these stuffs are still stored inside shared preference. So while I have this, I'm going to use a final list, okay, value.get string list, right? Because initially we saved it here as a list, right? So I'm going to use that with the same key. So I'll use get string list, pass in the key, right? So if it's null, we can just return an empty array. Cool. Then once I get that, I'm going to set auto change wallpaper list equals to the list that we have. I think this list is currently final, so I'm going to remove it from that. And then let me quickly locate it. Okay, while we are here, I'm going to call update state and then return the list directly. Okay, so now what we are going to do now is to go back to our download screen. And in our download screen, we are going to like check if the user is coming in to select auto change wallpaper, right? And if you are coming in to select auto change wallpaper, we are going to show the check, right? When you click here, we're going to show the check, right? That's this guy that I commented. So let me just remove this comment. We'll save this, right? So I'm going to remove this comment like so, and save it. It's going to show, right? So what I'm going to do now, remember I said I was going to change this color to a primary color, right? So to look like this. No, not this one. I think I did the wrong one. So I'm going to change this color to primary color here. Save it, and now it's looking cool. So what I'm going to do here is to check if the widget dot is auto change selection, right? And settings state. I think we have not created our settings state here, so I'm going to add another consumer, another provider here, which is going to be the settings provider, and I will call this settings state like so, and move down a little bit. So here we're going to have our settings state, right, dot auto change wallpaper list, right? We are going to check if it contains the data that is coming in dot the path, right? So if it contains it, we are going to go ahead and show this guy, all right? But if it doesn't, we are not going to see it. So let's save it now. You can see it doesn't contain it. That means we have not added anything to the list. We have not selected any item at all, okay? So, and if you notice, when we are coming from auto change, if we click, it's opening up this screen. We don't want it to be like that. So what I'm going to do here now is to check. I'm going to come here just on this on tap icon, right? The on tap callback. I'm going to check if the widget dot is auto change selection, right? Then we can go ahead and add it. But if it's not, we can now navigate to this screen, because we'll just assume the user is coming from downloads, right? So what I'm going to do here now is to say settings. I'm going to say settings state. We can say the set change wallpaper value, okay? And I'm going to assign it to the data, right? No, I'm going to say data dot path, right? It's more like a setter. Cool. So what happens here now is when we go here, right? If I try to initially, let's say I close this guy, right? If I try to select, it's going to give me that error that oops, please select more than one wallpaper to automatically change from downloads, right? So once you click OK, it's going to automatically open the download screen for us. And here now, I'll be able to select the images that I want to change, like I want to set as auto change, right? Let's say I want to select this one. You can see now it has been highlighted. I also want to select this one. You can see it has been highlighted. If I go back, and also let's say you can see here and it has 2 selected. If I go back now, you can see it's also showing that I've selected these ones. I can select multiple, I can remove the one that I don't want, right? It's going to be removed just like that. Okay, so now let's go back here now. Just assume that we have selected it. You can select multiple to make them 3 selected, right? So here we can select the duration, right? Let's say we want it for 15 minutes. We want it to be applied to the home screen, and now it has been toggled on, right? Which is cool. I think we now have what we want. Now we are in the main area, which is more like to set the main thing, more like to set the WorkManager to make it work and all that. But before we do that, there needs to be a logic, right? So, and that is whenever we get auto change wallpaper, or whenever we save auto change wallpaper, we are calling the WorkManager, right? That is when we get auto change interval. Like if we go to settings, so here we have the setup WorkManager, and it's called whenever we set we get auto change interval, right? And this get auto change interval is more like think get auto change interval, right? Is being triggered whenever users get into this screen, right? But that's not all. We also need to like call some other things when users are in the screen, because we need to call the state provider, right? Dot get, I think the get wallpaper location, right? We need to trigger it, and we also need to get state provider dot get auto change wallpaper list, right? These are more like things that we need to be in place. So whenever we call get auto change interval, we are actually calling the setup WorkManager, okay? And also inside the setup WorkManager, we are passing in the invert, like the interval, and here we are checking if the inverter is greater than 15. And once it's greater than 15, we are going to like call, let's just use a future.delay here, and we can now say durations, right? And seconds.3, and here we can we can now trigger the WorkManager, right? We can use WorkManager.register, so it has one-off task if you want it to just fire once, and it has periodic tasks if you want it to fire repeatedly, right? Based on the specified duration, which is a minute. So we have a unique name that we can give it. Let's just say my app, right? Let's just give it that unique name, and it has a task name. So the task name can just be wallpaper changer, right? So that's pretty much it. And then we can specify the frequency, more like the duration, how long we want it to fire. So we have the minutes, and I'm just going to pass the interval to it, okay? Which is this, right? Which is what we are passing, right? All right, cool. So this has been registered. You can see now we have the wallpaper changer, right? If there's any other thing, I think there are a lot of them. We have a tag, we have existing work policy. I don't know what that means, but we have backup policy, out of quarter policy, input data. You can decide not to even pass any input data. We have constraints, we have initial delay, right? So all of this is used for the WorkManager, but for now we don't want to fire the WorkManager yet, so I'm just going to comment that one out. I think there are one other thing that is left, which is more like the auto change wallpaper. So this auto change wallpaper is more like whenever the what's it called, the wallpaper fires, like whenever there's a notification for the WorkManager, right? It's going to call this method, and this method is going to handle the update to update the it's going to handle the updates or the changing of the wallpaper, fetching data from the shared preference, and then updating the data, right? So for us to implement this, we need to, like, first of all set up our WorkManager in our main.dat. So WorkManager has a method, we can call it more like a callback dispatcher. Do something here, let's just say result. Whenever it's triggered, you can say result and make this asynchronous, right? So since there's no way to get context from this guy, so what I'm going to do is just to call our settings provider, right? I'll just initialize the class directly and then call the auto change wallpaper, which we are yet to implement, right? So we see empty. Once we do that, we can now return the result like so. All right, so I do not know if this is really that important to return the result, but I think I did something wrong. I need to call WorkManager, right? Dot execute tags. Okay, we have the tags name, we also have the input data. So once it's been executed, we can just use the async here, right? We don't need to put it here, right? So we can just use this, pass in the method that we would like to call, or the method that we would like to trigger, right? Can just put it in there. Okay, so this is more like our callback dispatcher. Then next thing we need to do now is to put in our top level function, right? More like that is going to initialize this our top level function, which is the callback dispatcher. So inside here, while everything has been set up and all that, we are going to call WorkManager, right? Dot initialize. So we are just initializing the callback, and I'm going to pass in the callback dispatcher, which is this method, right? Then from here we can just say, since I'm in debug mode, I'll just set is debug mode, because whenever you're in debug mode, if you enable it, it will post a notification whenever the task is running, right? So but when you're in release mode, you're not going to see that notification, but I want to be seeing that notification, so I'm going to use is debug mode true. So but if you are deploying, yeah, you can just set it to false, right? So but I think it will be handy to just leave it as true, so that even in release mode, user should be seeing that notification to be sure that something is running, right? So this is pretty much the only thing you need to do. You don't need to touch any other thing again. So now we are going to go back to the main method, which is more like the auto change wallpaper. This is something that is very important. Whenever it gets triggered, we need to like fetch through our added intervals, fetch through the wallpaper lists that are available, and we can just generate the items randomly, right? And then just dispatch it and update it. So first thing I'm going to do, I need to get the saved interval here, which is more like getting get auto change interval. So now you understand why I was returning it instead of just assigning it directly, like calling this set state or notify listener. I actually wanted to use this right separately. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get the location, right, of where we want to apply it, because remember in the settings we saved the location, right? So we're going to get wallpaper location. So right here now we can just say, let's just have an up logger that just says interval and location. So we can have something like interval and the location. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do now is to get the downloaded files. So we have like a variable here that I can call downloaded files, which are those files that you saved, right? The ones that you selected, right? More like the auto change wallpapers. Okay, so we can now have something like let's await this, and we can call get auto change wallpaper list, right? Then moving on, we can now check if the list download files, if it's empty, like if it's not empty, right? We are going to check if it's not empty, which is what we want, right? So what we are going to do is more like to get random values, like we are going to get random numbers from random image from the list. So I'm going to be using round. Let's just create an initial round value. Let's say random, I think that's with math. The next int, so we can just increase it to like the length of this downloaded files, because it should not be good to have something like 0.5 when the length is not up to that. Okay, so it's going to throw some range exception, so you need to be careful of that. So once we get the range, I'm going to have a result and await this. I'm going to call the wallpaper manager.set wallpaper from file, right? Similar thing that we did in the past videos. So what I'm going to do here now, the path file is going to be from the downloaded files, and then I can just pass the rand, which is more like the random number that we are getting. Then the wallpaper location is going to be the location that the user previously saved, right? That we are getting from shared preference. Awesome. So moving on, I think we are pretty much done with this guy. So the only thing I just need to do is just to call app-logger.wallpaper. Let's just say wallpaper applied. Okay, so this is pretty much it. You don't really need to do much, and we can just return through here. Okay, so you don't need to do much here. I think everything looks pretty, and I think it's good to say return false, but here we can just return through if everything is success. Okay, cool, awesome. I think we don't even need this result. We can just remove it and just call it directly. As you can see, we are done with our app. We are done with everything that is needed, but then we need to call this setup WorkManager, right? So to get this done, what I'm going to do is to clear, like I'm going to set this up. And now if we go here, you will notice that our wallpaper is this, right? So let's open up our app one more time and check the auto change wallpaper. We actually selected all of these, right? So I want to unselect this for now. Okay, so we have only two. So I want to start the dispatcher. So to do that, I'm going to like save this and let's just do a hot restart so that the main.dat to be able to initialize this callback. Okay, and let me remove my app phone from do not disturb. All right, so now I believe it has been dispatched, but let's just try to like set let's toggle this off and then toggle it on again with 15 minutes interval and just set it. All right, so now let's hope that it changed, because the initial time is going to change, right? Then let's see. Okay, nothing happened, but let's just give it like for 15 minutes to see if there will be an update, right? And normally we are supposed to receive a notification that the callback has been dispatched. So I'm going to check that layer. I think we can see this. Let's see. Input data not found. You can see wallpaper changer, and you can see the wallpaper when it was triggered. And so far it didn't change anything. So that means we need to just like wait for some few minutes, more like that 15 minutes, to see what happens, right? So I'm just going to wait. I'm going to skip this video for that time so that we can see the update. Okay, so you can also minimize the app. Even though you minimize the app, you can even remove it, right? It's still going to work because it's WorkManager. It stores the data for long, so you always be seeing the notification. So this was the first. Okay, I'm going to wait for the other notification to come in, and then we can call this video a wrap. All right, guys, so I observed it for 15 minutes and the image was changed. So I later found out that the inner changed while in the background. I think I received a notification also. So guys, this is pretty much everything I wanted you guys to see. And as you can see, we have like all the logics for the wallpaper, right, implemented. But I don't think this WorkManager is actually a good option, right? But I will experiment with other options, and I'll keep on updating this video if I find something better. I think I was actually reasoning background fetch and also foreground service and the rest. Okay, so if I get any solution that works very well, because this WorkManager, it doesn't work like all the time. Yeah, I must confess, it doesn't work all the time. But once we get something that is good and something that is working very well, I'm going to create another updated version of this.